Welcome to NorCal Tea Party Radio.
All across the nation, the party's just begun. Voices speaking loud and clear, there are battles to be won. Gather here, reunite, join the revolution, 'cause we are strong and standing tall, upholding the Constitution. We the people say.
And now the host of We the People NorCal Tea Party Radio is Ginny Rapini. Jenny is the coordinator of the NorCal Tea Party.
Welcome to We the People Radio, NorCal Tea Party, and I, Ginny Rapini, welcome you today on our show. I want to explain to you first who we are as Tea Partiers. We believe in three core values: fiscal responsibility, constitutionally limited government, and the free markets. It's very difficult for either side to disagree with either one of those or any of those core values that we share. Even those on the left share our core value of wanting smaller government. Now, what differentiates us from most of the other Tea Party groups around? Well, one big thing is that we do not accept any money from any political party. We are not connected to the GOP, the DNC. Frankly, both have lost their way. So we are an independent, conservative group, not connected to a political party. We're just concerned about bringing our country back to her founding principles. So that's who we are, and I want to introduce you to our sponsor this week. Our sponsor is Del Rapini. Yes, he's my husband, and he is also a developer who works on property rights. And so we want to thank him for his support for this radio show. He's a really nice guy. Our guest today is Ben Mavey, and Ben is with the Placer County Water Board. And I know that sounds like it might be torture, water board, but it might be torture for some. I want to welcome you, Ben. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule and joining us.
All right. Thanks so much, Jenny, for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and want to thank you so much for all you do and all the work that the Tea Party volunteers are doing across this country. It's really exciting. I'm excited to be part of it.
Well, good. And it is all volunteers. Every single one of us are volunteers. I want to ask you, why should any of us be concerned or even care about the Placer County Water Agency?
Well, that's a great question. Many people, they hear the name Placer County Water Agency and they think, well, it's just another water company around. But we're much more than that. If you live in Placer County, you have a financial interest in PCWA, in the water agency, because we get some of your tax dollars. It's this at the beginning of this country, when this country was founded, there was this little idea about no taxation without representation. And I think most people like the idea of receiving a service when they pay their taxes. And so it doesn't matter where you get your water, even though we only provide water to just under 40,000 customers in Placer County. There's 350,000 people who live in Placer County who are entitled to some sort of service from the water agency.
Okay, well, that explains that one. Okay, from what I understand, the Placer County Water Agency only provides water, though, to a handful of communities, right, in Placer County?
That's correct.
So what are the rest of us Placer County residents getting then for our tax dollars? I know we're on a well.
Well, again, I'll take you back to my last point, is even though you're paying taxes to us, you don't get your water from us, so what would you expect to get from your water agency that you're paying taxes to? This is, when I campaign for my seat, my district goes from Auburn all the way up into Tahoe. And there's 3 neighborhoods in my whole entire district, the voters who elected me, that get water from PCWA. And so I'd go knocking on doors, asking people for their support, and they say, well, I'm not on PCWA, I don't get to vote for you. And this is a challenge, because we're getting your tax dollars. You don't see it on your tax bill because you're paying it to the Placer County, and the Placer County treasurer, tax collector, is collecting your taxes and then passing them on to us. But you are paying taxes to us. And I don't know, a few years before I was on the board, before I was elected in 2008, there were some communities who got together and said, hey, look, PCWA is getting our tax dollars, but we're not getting anything for it. Give us our tax money. So, excuse me. So they actually filed a lawsuit and took the agency to court. And the day the judge was supposed to make a decision, the water agency and these communities reached a deal that PCWA would create a grant program to provide assistance to small community-owned water systems in the area. And I think the settlement at the time was somewhere around $30,000 a year, and we're still doing that to this day. We budget $30,000 or $35,000 a year to as grants to give to small water companies. When I was elected, I pushed to expand our role, because these small water systems, again, Jenny, you're on a well.
Yeah.
So PCWA using your tax dollars to help these small water companies isn't doing anything for you.
That's right.
And so we have wells going dry across the country, across the county. Who knows if it's tied to us gun-eyeing all our canals or not? It's, some people say there's no connection at all. I've talked to hydrologists who say, well, yes, of course, if you're lining canals that have been dirt for 100 years, of course you're blocking off water that would be recharging wells or recharging aquifers. But whatever, if there's a connection or not, we still have a duty to you to provide water. So one of the things I've pushed for, and some community members have really helped me further this with the agency, is to allow our staff to create a master plan for water in the county. So we have our staff, our engineers, and these guys are bright guys. They're collecting all the data they can on where all the water systems are in the county, and then where there's a need for water. They're creating a prioritized list of, okay, if and when the agency has money to spare, tax dollars, where are we going to put that? What are we going to do with that money? And so we're creating a plan with where we can identify putting trunk lines, not pipes to your house, Ginny, but trunk lines to where we can make water more accessible to these communities.
Well, you just said something that sparked a perk in my ears. If we ever have tax dollars to spare. And do we ever have tax dollars to spare?
There's no such thing in government, Ginny.
I'm stunned.
That's right. Again, this is another gives me a great way to introduce this next topic. Something else I want to talk about, and that's the Middle Fork project on the American River. In 1962, Placer County voters were asked if they would be willing to go into debt to build a project on the American River. It's the Middle Fork watershed. It's a 244, I believe, megawatt power system. It's enough electricity to provide for 100,000 homes. And typically, when you go to voters to pass a bond, you're lucky if you get around 2/3% support. 66% support. Mm-hmm. This bond measure passed with 96% support.
Oh my
a 25-to-1 ratio of voters in favor. Do you imagine what it would take to get that level of support from voters? What would you have to say?
I have no idea.
I have a sneaking suspicion that voters weren't promised. If you guys will vote for this, then we'll be able to have humongous administrative buildings, Taj Mahal administrative buildings, glorious new welfare programs, and the highest paid administrators in the state. Right? I seriously doubt that's what was promised.
Right.
But what was promised to voters, and I have some of the campaign literature on my website and on my blog. I posted it for the world to see, the actual wording of the campaign of the measure, the campaign literature that went out. Voters were told, look, if you'll do this, we're not going to have to pay a dime. PG&E is partnering with us. They'll build the project. They'll pay all the debt service if we let them operate the power system for 50 years. So for 50 years, PG&E gets all the money. And that started in 1963. Well, guess what? Next year, 2013, that 50 years is up. In Placer County, we gets to take back our power system. And then that entitles us to all the revenue every year. It could be $50 million in 1 year, or $150 million in a year. It depends on the hydrology of the year. How wet we are, how dry we are, how expensive electricity is that year, or how valuable electricity is when we go to sell it in the market. That's a lot of money coming to Placer County, and that power system belongs to not just PCWA water ratepayers, but to all the residents of Placer County. And so what's going to happen to that money?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that.
I personally wish that it wasn't in government hands, because government by nature is wasteful, inefficient, tyrannical, you name it. That's the nature of government, and it is such a beast, such a monster to contain. But what are the chances of us, the people, giving up this asset or selling it and cashing it in and giving everyone in Placer County a check? It's not going to happen.
No.
So what's the next best thing that we can do to protect this valuable resource that we have? Really, our inheritance. This is something our progenitors gave us. Mm-hmm. We didn't have to do anything for this. PG&E did all the work, and it was the foresight of our parents or grandparents, people who came mm-hmm. before us, who left us this amazing legacy. And what are we going to do with it?
Got any ideas?
Well, I don't have big ideas on how to spend the money.
No. Do you have any ideas what they're planning on doing with it? I'm sure it's already spent and they haven't even got it yet, right?
Well, there's a lot of ideas out there. One of our county supervisors has proposed earmarking some of the money to pay for regionalization of a sewage treatment plant, which to me wouldn't be a bad use of this money. One of our former supervisors from my district, Bruce Kranz, great supervisor, he had this idea that he was pushing when he was supervisor, and this is one of the issues that I campaigned on, was we need to restrict those monies. I don't know if listeners can hear by my voice, but I'm a young guy. And
he is.
When I was a kid, I remember the gas tax debate. I remember when it passed, it was people of California were told, let's tax our gasoline purchases to pay for roads. And it made sense. It was an easy sell. Say, well, of course, the user pays. Those mm-hmm. of us who are driving are the ones who should be paying for the roads. It's, we're not opposed to paying taxes. Mm-hmm. And it made sense. But what happened when we passed that tax? We made a really big mistake. We passed a tax, but didn't put any restrictions on the use of the money. So we started paying this gas tax, and the money went to the general fund of the state. And we all know the story from there. It got spent on everything but roads. We came back later and passed another, and again, I shouldn't say we because I was still young, but I was observing this, reading the newspapers. Voters came back later and passed another proposition to restrict the use of gas taxes for roads. We've learned by now that the sad story of government is if you don't tie their hands, then they're not gonna spend the money the way they're supposed to.
That's right. And
so my thought is we need to restrict the use of this revenue. Either give it back to the residents of Placer County, just give them back the money, or restrict the use so politicians and bureaucrats can't hand it out to their favorite charities or their favorite their favorite
lobbyists,
exactly,
favorite unions,
whatever. And that's funny too, is when you bring up unions. I believe it was last year, it might have been the year before, when the county was in negotiations with one of their labor unions. One of the unions sent a letter to the Board of Supervisors saying, you guys can spend more of your reserves this year. The county was spending reserves, and in their salary negotiations, the union wanted more money. And the county says, we're already spending our reserves. And the union's response is, well, you can spend more of your reserves. We have Middle Fork money coming in the future.
Oh.
So the money is already being spent. There right. are all kinds of grubby hands, just waiting to get a hold of this.
Well, let's get back to that in just a minute. We're up against a break, and you're listening to
NorCal Tea Party Radio is sponsored
right
by Del Rapini.
KTKZ.
Del has been involved with the Tea Party since April of 2009. A retired developer, Del has a passion to serve and restore his country to her fundamental principles. This is just one way that he has chosen to accomplish his goal. Each month we need sponsors to offset the cost of this program. For information on how you can become a sponsor, go to NorCalTeaParty.org.
Go gather here to reunite, join the revolution. We are strong and standing tall, upholding the Constitution.
Welcome back to We the People Radio. Before we get back to our guest, Ben Mavey, who is just extremely interesting, I want to mention to you that you can go to our website, NorCalTeaParty.com, and you can do a number of things. You can give us feedback on the radio show. Give us ideas of people you would like to hear from. Also, let us know what you think about the radio show. And upcoming events, we are going to be having a bus tour and a rally. The bus tour will be launched at the rally at the Capitol on April 14th, right here in Sacramento, starting at noon. You can go to our website and get all the information you need about both of those events, the rally and the bus tour. Lots of other events as well about our meetings. Our next meeting is next Thursday in Auburn. You can get all the information about that. We'll have Tim Donnelly there, Assemblyman Tim Donnelly, who tried to repeal the DREAM Act. And we will be having dinner as well. So please go to our website, NorCalTeaParty.com. Thank you. Welcome back, Ben.
Hey, thanks, Jenny.
Hey, I had to interrupt you, but I want to go back to these pensions. Could any of that money be used for any unfunded liabilities that we have?
I think it would be a shame if that happened, but I can definitely see that happening. Right now, we really don't know what our unfunded pension liability is at PCWA at the Water Agency. As I'm sure your listeners are aware that this is a huge problem throughout the state, throughout the country, the unfunded liability problem. And one of the problems is, and I remember I studied finance when I was in school, and one of my professors years ago, before this was even on the radar, before Accounting Standards Board started requiring companies and governments to account for these unfunded liabilities and creating a standard on expected rates of return. This has been an issue for a long time, growing and blowing, mushrooming out of control. The CalPERS Board, the California, was it?
Public Utilities.
Public Employees Retirement
Public Employees, yeah.
System Board has a target rate of return on their portfolio, or an expected rate of return on their portfolio. Right now, I believe it's 7.75%, and this has been steadily lowered over the last few years, and this expected return is expected to go even lower, because their expectations aren't reasonable. But what this does to us is right now we have this fund. Every paycheck that we send out to our employees, we're promising a benefit when they retire that we're going to continue to pay them after they're no longer working for us. For us to finance that, we have to save money every year. Well, if we're expecting an 8% return on our portfolio, then we can figure, and we have an estimate of when our employee is going to retire, then we can guess how much money we're going to need to fund their retirement. Well, if we're overshooting the mark, if we're overestimating the returns we're going to get, then we're not saving enough, and we already know we're not saving enough. So we don't know what our unfunded liability is. Last year, PERS was telling PCWA that based on their 7.75% expected return, we have about a $20 million unfunded liability. If you believe that these guys out of Stanford who keep on releasing reports about how badly PERS is underfunded, I wouldn't be surprised if we're closer to $80 million unfunded.
Wow.
And so where's that money going to come from? I mean, we're not going to be able to say to our pensioners, sorry, tough beans, you're out of luck. That money's someone's going to pay for that, whether it's taxpayers, ratepayers, or it comes out of the Middle Fork project revenue. Someone's going to pay for it.
Wow. Okay, so on maybe a different note, Placer County Water Agency has been in the news for handing out across the board pay raises. Now, how can your board justify handing out these raises right now?
Well, if you ask me, they can't, but they'll try really hard. I was literally sick when I left our board meeting after the vote for the raises. We have a gifted, a talented, and experienced general manager. His name is Dave Brenninger. He's an exceptional manager, and he's put together a professional staff. I mean, who are great at what they do, probably some of the best at what they do, and we have a capable crew. And what employer doesn't want to pay their employees well? But these are hard times, and frankly, I think our guys are well paid, and the benefits that we offer are second to none. I mean, we are the envy of everyone around for the benefits that we offer. These are stinking hard times. People are hurting. Businesses are going under. Businesses that are still alive. The owners feel lucky or happy. People are working harder for less. They're working longer hours, or some cases they're
for less money.
Some employees are working shorter hours, whatever hours they can get, again for less money. How callous and cruel and insensitive to hand out raises right now.
Well, I know what it's like personally to be on a board and be the minority voting for fiscal responsibility. And that's why I resigned from the Tea Party Patriots National Board. So I can't imagine you on the scale that you're on, where you see taxpayer dollars used and abused, knowing that you're one of those taxpayers as well. So what's the outcome going to be on this? Is it a done deal? Are the raises there?
The raises are done and gone. It's a done deal. See, and this is one of the problems with government in California. There's this law called they call it the Brown Act. As soon as you're elected or appointed to any position in California, you're taught about the Brown Act, and you're told not to discuss any items that are under the purview of your agency or board that you sit on outside of public meetings, because you could very well be breaking the law.
Let me understand this. I hate to interrupt you, but I want to make sure I got this clear. In other words, you have a colleague on the board, and you can't call up that colleague and talk about anything and try to get some sense into their head. You can't lobby them.
and this is where it gets tricky. Is you can't build the law says you can't build consensus outside of a public meeting. And so I can call all of my colleagues and wish them a happy birthday and talk to them. But as soon as I start talking to more than one of them, there's 5 members on my board, so three votes on the board make a majority. And so if I talk to 2 of my board colleagues about the same issue, then I could be violating the law. And so I'm left to talk to one. And when you get
what happens if you talk to one day and you wait a month and you talk to the other one? Does that count?
Yeah, that's I don't know if it's the courts or the law itself that have decided that that's called a meeting in series, and you'd still be violating the law. So anyway, it makes it really hard to build a consensus in a board meeting, because when you get in a board meeting, a public meeting, a government meeting, we're not only are we taking minutes, but we're creating an audio tape. We're recording the meeting. Again, and if you want to be a realist, you have to talk about human nature and government, the nature of government. We know what the nature of government is. It's bureaucracy, inefficiency, wastefulness, tyranny, whatever you want to call it. And and I'm not being cynical. That's real. And,
yes, it is.
But our job as citizens is to watch over government and make sure that we don't, and try to eliminate the waste. Try to rein back the tyranny and the people. We have to work. It's a job for us to stay in control. And I don't want to get into the Tea Party Patriots inner struggles, but on any board, you're going to have the same. You're always going to have fights. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, the people who make the decision are the people who elect the board. Whether it's the Tea Party Patriots or the Placer County Water Agency, we need to hold our board members accountable. And that's, at the end of the day, that's all you can do. Is the voters need to pay attention. Voters need to find out how their representatives are voting, and either get a new representative in there on the board, or make sure that they feel pressure to start representing you and looking out for you.
Well, at this upcoming election, we are going to be sending out a report card. And I will count on you to give us some information so that we know where these people stand on fiscal responsibility. I think it is important. These local government is extremely important for us to get involved in. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Your assemblymen, your state senators, your U.S. congressperson, your U.S. senator, these guys start at a local level.
Okay. Hey, Ben, I told you before when we got started that this was going to be the fastest 30 minutes of our life, and was it?
Oh, it was. Thank you so much, Jenny, for having me on.
Thank you for coming. I want to thank all you listeners, your faithful listeners. I've been getting lots of feedback from you, and it's been very encouraging. Please go to our website to get more information of any events or upcoming meetings at NorCalTeaParty.com. That's NorCalTeaParty.com. Next week, our guest will be Jim Donnell, and he will be discussing with us the fair tax. Is there such thing as a fair tax? I hope that you have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Join us next week, same time, same place, KTKZ 1380 Radio. Goodbye.
Gather, kid, reunite, join the revolution. We are strong and standing tall, upholding the Constitution.
How to get involved? Individuals who want to become part of the NorCal Tea Party Patriots by attending meetings, events, or receiving action alerts, go to our website at NorCalTeaPartyPatriots.org. By signing in as a member, you'll receive our newsletter and action alerts. So get involved. NorCalTeaPartyPatriots.org.